States faces freezing temps and a chance for snow. Let's go right to Michael Hayslip to find out what you can expect from this cold snap.
Here's what we got rolling in, Tanya. Take out the cloud cover and the snow is upon us, especially up in our northern counties right now, and just developing here in the past 2 minutes, beginning to flip over. More importantly than the rain that we see in green is a little bit of the freezing rain, that outline band that we got, because that has the biggest impact on our travel. Not a whole lot of accumulation expected because our ground is warm enough, but we're going to see slick spots, especially on bridges and overpasses, and up to the north, anywhere from inch and a half of snow. As it progresses down to the south, we'll see a little bit more of this flip over to the rain variety, but that means also too, that transitional period, when it does go from snow to rain, we know that that can make roads even more treacherous, especially for this time of year when we've kind of gotten out of the habit of winter weather driving. So let's all give ourselves extra time to get to our destination. This thing is moving from the northwest to the southeast with temperatures right now sitting in the mid-30s, wind chills down into the mid-20s. This thing is impressive right here. Look at this thing for the latter third of April. Stretches just about from Colorado up to upstate New York. And far from being over, this is going to last into the afternoon. It's actually going to force cold temperatures to the east. We got a chance to even break a record low for tomorrow. Look at that. Whew! Mid-20s. That's actual temperature. That's not wind chill. Wednesday morning is going to be our coldest day of the week. Freeze warnings abound. Take care of the plants. Take care of any pipes that you have outside. Time to insulate those just for one day. But let's all get through this safe and sound. Then we can kind of recover and rebound in the 60s.
All right. Got a lot of drop in temperatures this week. Be careful out there. Make sure you bundle up.
How is it the latter third of April and we're talking snow? What's going on, Mother Nature? Come on now.
You never know. You never know. Got to keep us on our toes. Like you said, she's fickle.
Ah, and a mistress at that.
Yes. That sounds so wrong. All right, thanks, Michael. 2 former Quapaw Nation tribal leaders are indicted for embezzlement, conspiracy, and several other charges. Former Chairman John Berry and former Secretary Treasurer Tamara Smiley Reeves now face a total of 18 indictments. The alleged offenses occurred between April of 2014 and July of 2020. Under the Tribal Criminal Code, the Quapaw Tribal Court indicted John Berry for embezzlement, attempted embezzlement, 2 counts of conspiracy, 4 counts of abuse of office, offense by officers, improper gifts to tribal officials or employees, and theft of services. Tamara Smiley Reeves faces 8 indictments, including embezzlement, attempted embezzlement, 2 counts of conspiracy, 2 counts of abuse of office, and 2 counts of offense by officers. The indictments come after the Quapaw Nation Gaming Authority requested Innovative Gaming Solutions to conduct an audit last year. They received allegations of improper bonuses paid to tribal leaders and casino executives. According to court documents, the audit was delayed due to the election and was continued afterwards. The court documents go on to say the auditors found salaries and bonuses in the millions without approval from the Quapaw Business Committee. We reached out to the attorney for John Berry, who sent us this response saying they're aware of the criminal complaint and that, quote, Mr. Berry denies all of the complaint's allegations and he looks forward to clearing his name in court. Newton County's Second Amendment Preservation Act, which passed in February, is now getting some national attention. A website called Defy Tyrants interviewed County Commissioner David Osborne about the ordinance and posted the video on YouTube last week. The act is intended to provide for protections against all federal acts, laws, orders, rules, and regulations that infringe on Second Amendment rights to keep and bear arms. The act also provides for the Newton County Sheriff's Office to arrest any federal agents who are trying to violate the ordinance.
We're one of many counties that have passed those in Missouri. I'd like to get an official count. I'm hoping someone's tracking them, but I've heard is upwards of 20 counties have now passed them. I know McDonald County passed one also. And many states, other states have reached out to us, and other counties in other states saying, hey, how do we do the same thing?
The Missouri House passed a similar act in February. It's currently in the Senate. Former Kansas Governor Jeff Colyer formally launches his campaign to reclaim the office in 2022. In his new bid for governor, Colyer is portraying himself as the true conservative in the Republican primary. Colyer narrowly lost the GOP primary in 2018 as governor to then Secretary of State Chris Kobach, before Kobach lost to Democrat Laura Kelly. Colyer's launch in Topeka featured U.S. Senator Roger Marshall, who endorsed Colyer. The ex-governor endorsed Marshall last year. Joplin City Council votes to move to Phase 3 of its COVID-19 response and recovery plan. Moving to Phase 3 means the city is lifting restrictions on indoor gatherings. The city already lifted mask mandates and some restrictions on outdoor gatherings. Private businesses might still enforce mask rules and social distancing, but those are not required by the city.
I think that it's one of those things where I just don't think we want to feel like we went too soon, but I think council's starting to feel significantly more confident that the hard work has been done, and now we can become a little bit more accommodating and less restrictive.
Council also approved a proposed project to widen 32nd Street between Schiffer Avenue and Central City Road. Well, someone in the 4 states is $40,000 richer, and they might not even know it yet. Winning Mega Millions ticket was sold in Southeast Kansas on April 16th. The winning numbers were 17, 27, 28, 50, 55, and a Powerball of 25, and a Mega Plier of 4. The winner matched 4 of those numbers in the Mega Ball for a $10,000 win, but because they chose the Mega Plier option, their prize multiplied to $40,000. Again, the winning numbers were 17, 27, 28, 50, and 55, and a Mega Plier of 4. Here's your chance to buy an entire town. For $2.7 million, you can own the tiny town of Nipton, California, population 25. The town was slated to become a cannabis consumption destination for people looking to get away, but the idea went bust. The pandemic added further pain and forced a foreclosure. The town's current owner believes there is a bright future for Nipton. 30 years ago, her late husband bought the town, hoping to revive it into a modern, green, and sustainable community. She hopes a new owner would attempt something similar. Well, Michael, it is 420.
Is it any coincidence that we're doing this story on April the 20th? I was going to be a little bit more conspicuous than inconspicuous.
Sorry, I'm not. And this won't be the last time we mention that. All right.
I didn't say it. I didn't say it. Tell the brass. That one's not on me. I was just going to point out it was April 20th.
It's all right, all right. Up next, everyone knows what 420 means, but where did it come from? I told you we weren't done. A look back at the origins of the unofficial marijuana holiday. And changes to Mizzou's Social Justice Center sparks protest on campus. We'll have the latest. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Today marks an unofficial holiday where fans of marijuana light up and chew up. Many simply call the day by its numbers, 420. The day to celebrate 420 as a day to use marijuana will be marked in rallies around the country. The event originally started as a ritual by California high school students who smoked marijuana every day at 4:20 p.m. Urban legends grew to interpret 420 for a police or penal code for marijuana or the number of chemicals in it. The day has since turned into a national cause to legalize recreational marijuana use. Marijuana is legal for adults in 16 states and Washington, D.C. And now 36 states allow for medicinal marijuana use. The Biden administration considers changes to smoking products content to reduce harmful smoking effects. The administration is weighing a proposal for the reduction in the amount of nicotine to non-addictive or minimally addictive levels in all cigarettes, or a menthol cigarette ban. The Washington Post says there is strong support in the FDA for banning both menthol cigarettes and small cigars. FDA has a deadline of April 29th to respond to a citizen petition regarding the menthol ban. As the country continues its COVID vaccination efforts, some doctors are warning about a new side effect that appears in women and can only be seen through a mammogram. Michael Konopasek has the story.
Still learning a lot about these vaccines and how they impact us. Of course, we all know that many of us will feel sick after being vaccinated, but what does it mean for women right before they're about to get a mammogram? Mammograms are key to early detection of breast cancer. Radiologists are trained to look for some cancer warning signs, including swollen lymph nodes. But for some, it appears the COVID vaccines also make lymph nodes larger.
So far in the early observations, we think this is about 15% of women can have enlargement of their lymph nodes.
Dr. Stephanie Miller is a breast surgeon with Health One's Rose Medical Center and North Suburban. She says the COVID-19 vaccine lymph node side effect is not unexpected. She stresses that the vaccine will not lead to breast cancer, but it can lead to some confusion.
Is this just the normal reaction from the COVID vaccine, or are we finding a new breast cancer?
Miller says patients may try scheduling mammograms before being inoculated if possible, or wait 4 to 6 weeks after completing the vaccine schedule. However, she worries any delay could jeopardize people's busy schedules and lead to people not getting their mammograms as often as they should. For those who have enlarged lymph nodes during a mammogram and after being vaccinated, Miller says don't be surprised if your provider schedules more follow-up, like an ultrasound in a few weeks' time, just to be sure.
A new survey by Nestle says Americans are taking fewer coffee breaks and working longer hours since the beginning of the pandemic. To reverse that trend, a brand called Chameleon Organic Coffee would like to pay 2 lucky people to take more coffee breaks. Each person will win a cash prize of $3,000 and a generous stash of Chameleon cold brew coffee. To enter, the company urges people just to take more coffee breaks and click on chameleoncoffee.com. All you have to do is put your email in the entry form before May 31st, then sit back and take your break. Winners will be selected by a random drawing the first week in June.
It's because more people are working from home. I don't know the answer. I was just asking you.
I don't think working from home means you're taking fewer breaks. They're just unrecorded breaks.
But it said longer hours and less coffee breaks, because if you're working from home, we know we have people here that don't stop checking their email, don't actually get off the clock, even though we stress to them it's important for your health to do so. Mm-hmm. And also, too, a break room can be a gathering place, water cooler, coffee break, something like that. But if you're working from home, chances are you're probably isolated.
True that.
I don't know. I was just
Very
throwing
true.
that. Psychologists out there,
know.
help me out, please.
I never worked from home, so I don't really know what it's like.
Game time. That's what we did. Game time.
Came to work every day.
Yeah, we did.
Yep.
No snowflakes outside of Television City as of yet, but we know they are on their way. Here comes the line making its way right now, really through Joplin, headed down south, through Pittsburgh, headed down south toward Joplin. Also, too, this has gone back and forth here up to the northwest in between rain snow mix. It started out just as snow. Majority of the accumulation going to stay up here. Need everybody to give yourself extra time getting out the door, because elevated surfaces are going to have slick spots on them. Roads will end up being slushy as it transitions back over to rain, and then overnight frigidly cold with freeze warnings abound. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News, where this morning we are kind enough to be joined by Lacey Wagner. She's the marketing manager at Arvis Bank. And Lacey, it's been a while since you and I caught up. Number one, I want to thank you for your time on this Tuesday morning. Number two, I want to talk about an important initiative that's now been going on for more than a decade at Arvis Bank. It's called Million Meals. Yes. How do you describe that to people in the community, exactly what Arvis has put together here in its 11th year?
Hard to believe that it's been 11 years that we've been doing this right here in the Joplin region. Million Meals, it's an annual Arvis Bank food drive initiative, basically, to fight local hunger right here in the communities that we serve. You mentioned that it's been 11 years running, and basically it's a 2-month food drive campaign where we normally are raising food, like gathering food donations. This year's a little different. We're only gathering monetary donations. But we'll be doing that for 2 months, so the beginning of April all the way through the end of May. And your donations are greatly appreciated to keep this initiative moving and going strong.
Yeah, for all those of you at home that want to partake in this and help out our 4 state communities, you've got all the way till May 29th for this to wrap up. Lacey, speaking of the monetary aspect of it, because we know things are going to be different when it comes to organizations, donations, and whatnot, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you say it's 1 million meals, and how do you do that calculation monetarily?
That sounds like a pretty hard challenge, doesn't it? And without your help, it absolutely is. But basically, our food banks are telling us that for every dollar that is donated to them, they can then raise the equivalent of 5 meals for local families in need.
You know, oftentimes it happens during the holidays that we have a tendency to think about those in need, and Lord knows the 4 state communities do so much to help them. I find it interesting. Arvis runs the Million Meals campaign during the springtime. Is there any particular reason why you kind of chose this time?
Yes, absolutely. So again, we rely on the experts and our food partners to tell us, and the local food banks again are telling us that during the summer months, when these donations are going to be provided and donated to our food partners, that's when we really see an increased need. Think about all the kiddos that are out of school and they are home for the summer and not having that daily meal provided through the school possibly. And so an increased need for donations during the summer months has been a high demand. So we decided to shift this. Normally, when we first started this campaign, it was just that. It was around the holidays. It was around the fall, going into the holidays. And then hearing back from our food partners and our food banks, we changed it to meet the need.
That is tremendous that you have adjusted to their needs to help out, and I love the fact that you bring up the kids that are home during the summers who may rely on their schools. I guess the most important thing before we get out of here, Lacey, is a friendly reminder to people who want to help Arvis Bank and the Million Meals Initiative. How do they donate to help our 4 state food banks?
Absolutely. So there are several ways. One, we're in 10 different communities around here. Every Arvis bank across the bank group is providing this service right now for the Million Meals Initiative. So you can donate through the drive-through in the branches that are open as well. If you have our Arvis Go mobile app, you can download directly, donate directly through that app. And you can also go to arvis.com/million meals.
And once again, you don't have to be an Arvis customer, folks. We all can work together here and help out feed 1 million meals. Lacey, I want to thank you and Arvis for everything that you've done. Once again, this is the 11th year of the Arvis Million Meals Initiative. And Lacey Wagner from Arvis Bank. Lacey, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, we'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
It's time to honor today's 4 state hero, Corporal Wayne Workman, who served in the United States Army from 1951 to 1953. He fought in Korea as a member of the 31st Infantry, his hometown, Liberal, Missouri. We are proud to salute Wayne Workman, our 4 state hero. Dozens of marchers gathered on MU's campus yesterday in response to rumors of changes at the university's social justice centers. Lauren Schwiniger spoke to students who expressed concern about losing services that make them feel heard.
Justice for justice! Justice for justice!
We don't support this and we don't feel supported by the school.
About 100 students gathered outside Traditions Plaza and marched to Jesse Hall.
Mizzou is a university that always tries to pride itself on diversity, but a move like this is it's so counterintuitive.
Hoping that Mizzou can listen to its students more, especially the marginalized communities.
Many shared testimonials about the program's impact.
And without them, I feel like I would not have found good resources and groups on campus to feel supported as a woman of color.
MU's social coordinators were told last week their positions will no longer exist starting July 1st. Instead of having specialized identity-based coordinators for the 5 centers, the new structure staff will now work across all centers and be focused on specific tasks. MU spokesperson Christian Basie claims the school is taking a community approach.
This is the whole point of the restructuring. We want to make sure that we have a structure in place that is there for the long haul. And this is something that, again, based on feedback we had gotten from the campus community earlier.
But if the current coordinators want to be a part of the changes, they'll have to reapply. Some students feel that's unfair.
I would not want to ever see them, having their jobs terminated or leaving. I don't know what I would do without them.
For the coordinators who support students, the students feel the university isn't supporting them back.
School spokesman says those changes will do nothing but enhance the abilities of the Justice Center by adding more qualified staff and resources for students. Another half hour of news and weather is just ahead. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14, the steps you need to take to prepare your car for an upcoming road trip. And we remember the life and legacy of the late former Vice President Walter Mondale. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:31. Let's take a look at today's top stories. 2 former Quapaw Nation tribal leaders are indicted for embezzlement, conspiracy, and several other charges. Former Chairman John Berry and former Secretary Treasurer Tamara Smiley Reeves are now facing a total of 18 indictments. The alleged offenses occurred between April of 2014 and July of 2020. Under the Tribal Criminal Code, the Quapaw Tribal Court indicted John Berry for embezzlement, attempted embezzlement, 2 counts of conspiracy, 4 counts of abuse of office, offense by officers, improper gifts to tribal officials or employees, and theft of services. Tamara Smiley Reeves is facing 8 indictments, including embezzlement, attempted embezzlement, 2 counts of conspiracy, 2 counts of abuse of office, and 2 counts of offense by officers. The indictments come after the Quapaw Nation Gaming Authority requested Innovative Gaming Solutions to conduct an audit last year. They received allegations of improper bonuses paid to tribal leaders and casino executives. According to court documents, the audit was delayed due to the election and was continued afterwards. Court documents go on to say the auditors found salaries and bonuses in the millions without approval from the Quapaw Business Committee. We reached out to the attorney for John Berry, who sent us this response saying they're aware of the criminal complaint and that, quote, Mr. Berry denies all of the complaint's allegations and he looks forward to clearing his name in court. In Arkansas, a man admits to illegally removing and damaging more than 24 trees from a Missouri National Forest. 46-year-old Jamie Edmondson pleaded guilty to depredation of government property. He admitted to cutting down and removing 27 white oak and walnut trees from the Mark Twain National Forest in Berry County. Edmondson sold the trees to various sawmills in the area. He could face up to 10 years in federal prison. Newton County's Second Amendment Preservation Act, which passed in February, is now getting some national attention. A website called Defy Tyrants interviewed County Commissioner David Osborne about the ordinance and posted the video on YouTube last week. The act is intended to provide for protections against all federal acts, laws, orders, rules, and regulations that infringe on Second Amendment rights to keep and bear arms. The act also provides for the Newton County Sheriff's Office to arrest any federal agents who are trying to violate the ordinance. Joplin City Council last night voted to move to Phase 3 of its COVID-19 response and recovery plan. Moving to Phase 3 means the city is lifting restrictions on indoor gatherings. The city already lifted mask mandates and some restrictions on outdoor gatherings. Private businesses might still enforce mask rules and social distancing, but those are not required by the city. With colder weather coming in, you may be wondering how to keep your plants safe with a big drop in temperature. And we spoke with a master gardener who explains there are steps those with gardens can take to keep their plants intact.
Go ahead and take a big 55-gallon trash bag and drape it right over the top of it, turn it inside out, and then just tape off that bottom. And that should protect those plants and those trees and any young bushes that are in flower or fruit right now.
Master gardener also says keeping crops insulated and potted plants inside will protect them from drops in temperature.
Don't forget the outdoor pipes as far as plumbing goes as well. Need to wrap them up. Not so much for this morning. We're doing all right above the freezing mark, but it's going to be tomorrow morning.
That's right.
All right, Tanya, we're getting some storm reports in. One of those including the good doctor, Wayne Gilmore, checking in with us from Parsons, Kansas. Let us know that the snow is coming down right there along Highway 400. Does point out, though, it's not sticking to any roads. Still want everybody to be very careful on bridges and overpasses. Additional storm reports now coming out of Anderson County, where they've already accumulated an inch, and it will be our far northern counties that will see the most snow. 37 right now in Joplin. Let's go 39 in Oswego, 36 in Nevada. Wind chills, though, down to about the mid-20s. Snow lasting from Denver all the way to upstate New York. That is impressive geographically in scope, and we find ourselves right in the thickest part of that east-west band. Temperature is going to be just high 30s, low 40s today. More importantly, it's what we've got all the way through the afternoon. That's that band that's going to drop the most snow, and then it reverts over to rain. I do want to point out the pink right there because that's an indicator of freezing rain. Now, our ground's really too warm to support a whole lot of accumulation, but you are going to run into some slick spots. So we just want everybody to slow down, be careful, and we'll get through this just fine. Now, as we transition into tomorrow, we're going to drop down into the mid-20s. That's why we were talking about the plants and the pipes, especially for tonight into tomorrow morning. Freeze warnings for the entire 4 states. Now, we are able to make it up into the 50s for the rest of the week, if not 60s, and should be our last day below freezing for some point in time. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll. Now that the jury is deciding Derek Chauvin's fate after closing arguments yesterday, asking what you think about it. Nikki Oliver says, I hope they find the policeman guilty. I think he tortured George Floyd. Kenny Kimmel says the way he conducted himself, as in Chauvin in the line of duty, was not only wrong, but absolutely criminal. In a time when the whole world knows our men and women in blue are under intense scrutiny, if anything, you should err on the side of caution. Stacey Ryhurd says not guilty. If this was the other way around, it wouldn't be protested and this much media coverage. And Clint Anderson, he says even if he's guilty, they will destroy the streets in celebration. I want to run down here on Clint's point. Judge Cahill, Clint watched everything, and I appreciate it, Clint. He says Maxine Waters, a representative from California, opened the door for a mistrial appeal with her comments. Clint, I appreciate you pointing that out because while the judge would not declare a mistrial after Maxine Waters' comments, he did say it possibly could open the door for an appeal. Morning Insta poll right now, 53% of you believe that Derek Chauvin is going to be found guilty, 36% going with hung jury. Over to Tanya in Studio K.
Former Vice President and presidential candidate Walter Mondale has died at the age of 93. His family announced he passed away yesterday in Minneapolis. Natalie Brand has more on Mondale's political legacy.
A few minutes ago, Walter Mondale is often remembered for losing the presidency to Ronald Reagan in 1984. But he also made history by picking Geraldine Ferraro as his running mate, the first woman on a major party presidential ticket.
I think they're looking nervous.
The Republicans.
Well, the White House.
The Minnesota native and lifelong Democrat also left an enduring mark on the vice presidency.
So help me God.
The son of a Methodist preacher, Walter Mondale's political career was marked by early success. He became Attorney General of his home state of Minnesota at 32, and he was elected to the U.S. Senate at 36.
Well, we got meet some folks. Sure, I'd be delighted.
In 1976, Jimmy Carter tapped Mondale to be his running mate on the Democratic presidential ticket.
And I'm proud and honored to be a part of this team.
After Carter's victory, Mondale immediately beefed up the job of vice president, moving the vice president's office to the west wing of the White House, and he started having weekly lunches with the president. Both traditions endure to this day. Carter was defeated for re-election in 1980. 4 years later, Mondale sought the top job for himself, but he faced a popular president in Ronald Reagan, who was running for re-election.
Mr. Reagan will raise taxes, and so will I. He won't tell you. I just did.
Mondale suffered one of the biggest electoral defeats in U.S. history.
Ronald Reagan still has a chance for an historic 50-state sweep.
President Reagan beat Mondale in 49 states, leaving Mondale with only the electoral votes from his home state of Minnesota and Washington, D.C. After that defeat, Mondale moved back and forth between public and private sectors. He served as ambassador to Japan under President Clinton. In 2002, he lost his attempt to reclaim his old Minnesota Senate seat, but he was gracious in defeat.
And in what is obviously the end of my last campaign, I want to say to Minnesotans, you always treated me decently. You always listened to me.
That Midwestern humility endeared Mondale to his home state and a generation of his fellow Democrats. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Mondale family said in a statement plans for memorials will be announced later for both Minnesota and Washington, D.C. As more Americans get vaccinated, many may be ready to hit the road, but travel experts say many cars that have been idled during the pandemic need to be serviced for safety. Mandy Gaither has more on what you need to get checked.
As the weather heats up, so does business at some local car repair shops.
What a difference a year makes.
Last year at United Tire and Service in Pennsylvania, it was quiet, but now business is booming. Company president Greg Minoff says many customers are gearing up for a road trip.
Our service bays are busier, our teams are busier. It definitely feels like we're back to normal.
AAA says road trips continue to be the preferred way to travel in the U.S. If your car has been sitting in your driveway for the past year, it might need a checkup. If you have a favorite mechanic, check to see if there are any changes to how the business operates in the pandemic. And appointments are encouraged, according to David Bennett, AAA's repair systems manager.
Is there a contactless drop-off where you can just pull up, drop the keys off, let them know? Or is there a drop box where you put the keys? So you want to know the process.
Bennett says there are 4 main things a mechanic should inspect. Your battery. Without use, it might have a lower life expectancy. Your hoses. Make sure they're not dried out or cracked. Your tires. Make sure they're inflated and not worn. And get your fluid levels checked. Make sure they're clean and filled.
Some of those are the oil, the transmission fluid, power steering fluid, brake fluid are the 4 most common that you want to take a look at.
And if you're hitting the road, don't wait until the last minute to head to a mechanic.
You should be 2 weeks or so in advance of a trip, getting everything prepared on the car, make sure it's right before making a trip.
For Consumer Watch, I'm Mandy Gaither.
AAA says some repair shops that used to offer courtesy cars during repairs may not be doing that during the pandemic. That's another thing to keep in mind. We'll be right back with more after this, but first let's take a look at the market prices before the opening bell. A police officer in Arkansas has seen more on the job than most of the people he protects and serves have seen in their entire lives. And he's living proof that age is indeed just a number. Martin Savage has the story.
When Officer Elsie Buckshot Smith
How y'all doing?
says he knows almost everyone in Camden, Arkansas,
Hey, Benny.
population 11,000,
Good to see y'all.
it's true.
All right.
At 91, he spent more time protecting and serving than many residents have been alive. 56 years.
You ever missed a day at work?
No. Not. Just take off.
For more than 4 decades, he was a deputy with the Ouachita County Sheriff's Department.
First time you retired, how long did that last?
30 days.
30 days.
So, in his 80s, he became a rookie cop on the Camden Police Department.
I love to meet peoples, help peoples, and do things for peoples.
Chief Boyd Woody is Buckshot's boss.
So my first year in law enforcement in the jail, and Mr. Smith was my supervisor. He was over the jail at that time.
So he was your boss?
He was my boss, yeah.
Officer Smith starts each day at 7 a.m.
But I check in 15 to 20 minutes ahead of time.
You're always early. Somehow I'm not surprised.
Patrolling neighborhoods, escorting school buses, investigations.
How many arrests have you made?
I've taken more people home than I arrested, took to jail.
So you try to come up with another way.
Role model, just maybe, Officer Smith's most important job, especially to younger officers.
Some of them come looking at policing as they saw it on TV, looking at policing as they see it in a big city. This is a community.
I tell them all, this badge and gun don't make no police officer. You got to respect folks. I want to be treated right, and I figure you want to be treated right.
Next month, Officer Smith will turn 92. the town's planning a parade.
Do you ever think you will retire?
When the good Lord says so.
Officer L.C. Buckshot Smith serving beyond the call because serving is his calling. And just about everyone in town knows it.
All right. Yeah.
What a great role model right there.
I'm so happy we ran that story. Our incomparable producer, Caden Milner, and I actually found that at separate times yesterday, and we talked about it, and I went back and I watched it yesterday afternoon, and I'm like, this is tremendous. I love that story right there. That was great. All right, Tanya, from the sky camera, it doesn't look like it's snowing, right? No. Yeah, I just walked outside. It was like, whoa, flakes, just, yeah. It's the snowing here outside of Television City. I know we're not the only ones. This just keeps on moving from the northwest to the south. We're starting to see a little bit of it transition into rain, excuse me, every now and then. The big thing is when you get to that transitional period, that's where we got to watch our bridges and our overpasses. Now, our ground's really too warm to have a whole lot of snow accumulation, but I do want everybody to take it easy. We're not used to winter driving. It's been a while since we've had to, prepare for this, and we are getting some storm reports out of the northern section of the four states. Up in Anderson County, get back there. Back in Anderson County, we've got snow accumulation of 1 inch, and this brand new one right here just came in from Coffee County, 1.1 inches. So the farther north you go, be prepared that you're going to run into some on the ground. As far as portions of southwest Missouri go, that's where it's going to lighten up as it progresses from the northwest down to the southeast. The jet stream just grabbing that cold Canadian air, sweeping it off the Rockies and directly through us. So our temperatures 30 degrees below where we'd normally be this time of year. We should be around 71, 72, top out in the low 40s. That's as good as it gets. Widespread frost tomorrow. So no surprise that after this moves through this afternoon, we're going to have freeze warnings. Take care of not only the plants, remember any outdoor pipes that you have as well. Those are going to be very susceptible. Now, when we get to the 7-day forecast, we can actually make it up into the 50s tomorrow. A welcome reprieve, even though it's way below normal. And then 60s as we head into the weekend. We'll be back and wrap up this edition of the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
It's the big...
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Here's what's happening today. Jury deliberations are now underway in the Derek Chavin murder trial. Former Minneapolis police officer is accused of killing George Floyd last May. A conviction could carry a 40-year prison sentence. Every American over the age of 16 is now eligible to be vaccinated against COVID-19. The CDC says 132 million people have received at least one vaccine dose. 85 million are now considered fully vaccinated. And former Vice President Walter Mondale has died. Mondale served one term under President Jimmy Carter from 1977 to 1981. In 1984, he was the Democratic presidential nominee but lost in a landslide to Ronald Reagan. Fritz Mondale was 93 years old.
Forget that his vice presidential candidate that year was one Geraldine Ferraro, first woman nominated to be on a ticket as vice president. Skywatch Storm Tracker as the snow moves from the northwest down to the southeast. Little switch over into rain there in the central portion of the four states. Just be careful. Give yourself a lot of extra time. We're not used to the winter defensive driving in the latter third of April. And slow and steady is going to win the race. Don't forget, overnight, mid-20s. Freeze warnings abound. Luckily, by tomorrow afternoon, we can start climbing up back into the 50s.
Well, you might say this holiday gives identical twins an advantage, and you're right. April 20th is National Lookalike Day, a day to look like another person. If you've ever been mistaken for someone famous, maybe you could try to dress like them today. If not, hit your closet or costume store and dress up like a celebrity or wear matching clothes and hairstyles with a friend. Think of it as an early Halloween. National Lookalike Day started in the 80s when some reporters in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania saw a man who looked just like Humphrey Bogart, so they wrote up a story on him.
Can I use this as a quick opportunity to do something selfish?
Sure.
There's a Michael Hayslip doppelganger in southeast Kansas. I've yet to ever meet him, but I'm often confused. People will be like, I saw you at such and such, I saw you at such and such. If anybody knows who this gentleman may be, please let me know, because I would love to meet him. This has been going on for years.
We need to take a picture of the two of you together.
I thank you all for letting us put the good in your morning. More news and weather and snow updates when we see you at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day.